Prime Minister Carney does more deal making as President Trump threatens more tariffs over Greenland. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Prime Minister Carney is on his way to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. And so is Donald Trump. Mark Carney just wrapped up a visit to Qatar, where he said during a news conference that the country has agreed to make significant investments in major projects in Canada.
This capital will help the projects get built faster and supercharge our energy industries while helping to create thousands of high-paying careers for Canadians. We're also announcing an ambitious new partnership while we deepen our ties across trade, investment, defense, and AI. After years of stalled negotiations, we're prioritizing a new investment promotion and protection agreement, which we'll finalize by this summer. This agreement will enable Canadian businesses to more easily expand their operations in and attract investment from this dynamic $290 billion economy. Following Ramadan, representatives from Qatar's Sovereign Wealth Fund will visit Canada to explore new investment opportunities. And in the coming months, a delegation of Canada's leading pension funds will visit here to do the same.
The Sovereign Wealth Fund of Qatar is one of the largest in the world, with more than $500 billion in assets. Some of its major holdings include the largest bank in the Middle East, Qatar Airways, and the Harrods Group in London. But it also has a poor human rights record. It's been accused of exploiting migrant workers, of restricting free speech, and of discrimination based on gender and sexual orientation. The Prime Minister views this as an opportunity for the two countries to get to know one another better.
When the people of different countries are familiar with each other's cultures and perspectives, they're enriched and they trust each other more. They also want to do more together, to build together. And to that end, Canada and Qatar are strengthening our people-to-people ties and our cultural ties. This year, Qatar begins its year of culture, building lasting relationships through cultural, educational, business, and creative exchanges. Canada, to further these efforts, will expand our air transport agreement to increase direct flights to this country. We'll also lead to more tourism and business between our nations.
When the Prime Minister arrives in Davos for the World Economic Forum, the latest moves from U.S. President Donald Trump are sure to be the talk of the Swiss Alps. Over the weekend, Trump said he would hit 8 European countries with a 10% tariff because those countries are against his wish to have the United States take control of Greenland, which is part of Denmark, a NATO ally. At an event at Downing Street in London today, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer again said the future of Greenland will be decided by the people of Greenland and Denmark.
And so any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. That right is fundamental, and we support it. Denmark is a close ally of the United Kingdom and of the United States, a proud NATO member that has stood shoulder to shoulder with us, including at real human cost in recent decades. Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure. That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong.
When asked about Trump's threat of tariffs and his desire to control Greenland, Prime Minister Carney said today he's concerned.
It's a serious situation, and we're concerned. We're concerned about this escalation, to be absolutely clear. We always will support sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries wherever their geographic location is. I might add, to bring it to the current discussion today, as part of the discussions the Emir and I had about a series of situations which would have a common element, which is threats to or compromising territorial integrity and sovereignty, Ukraine being a very prominent example. But I'll bring it back now to Greenland. So we will always support that. The future of Greenland, decisions about the future of Greenland are for Greenland and Denmark to decide.
There are multiple news reports today that the Prime Minister is considering sending a small contingent of Canadian troops to Greenland to take part in NATO exercises there as a show of solidarity with our NATO allies. Speaking on Meet the Press on NBC, Scott Bessent, the United States Treasury Secretary, echoed the U.S. president's comments and said the United States has to control Greenland.
President Trump strongly believes that we cannot outsource our security because, Kristen, let me tell you what will happen, and it might not be next year, might not be in 5 years, but down the road, this fight for the Arctic is real. We would keep our NATO our NATO guarantees, and if there were an attack on Greenland from Russia, from some other area, we would get dragged in. So better now, peace through strength, make it part of the United States, and there will not be a conflict because the United States right now, we are the hottest country in the world. We are the strongest country in the world. The Europeans project weakness. The U.S. projects strength.
The countries being threatened with new tariffs are the UK, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Finland. They could come into effect by the 1st of February and then increase to 25% by June 1st. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Last week, Prime Minister Carney announced a deal with China that will see a certain number of Chinese EVs being allowed into Canada each year. That's in exchange for tariff relief on Canadian agricultural products like canola, but also seafood. About 49,000 vehicles a year will be allowed in the country at first, eventually increasing to 70,000 vehicles, and a certain percentage will have to carry a landing price of $35,000 or less. For some reaction to this news, we're joined once more by Tim Dimopoulos, the managing director and publisher of Automotive News Canada. Thanks for coming back on. Good to hear from you.
How you doing? How you doing?
Very good. Yeah, very good. What is your reaction to this EV deal between Canada and China?
Well, it's a little mixed. I mean, there isn't a ton of clarity on how it's going to roll out, but certainly there's some big news with this deal being inked. One of the things that's interesting is before 2024, we already had Chinese-made vehicles in the country, pretty close to the quota of 49,000. There were 44,000 Tesla Model Ys that were being imported that were Chinese-made, along with Polestars and Volvos, which operate under the Geely company in China. They were also being brought in, and Ford, Lincoln, and Buick were also bringing in Chinese-made vehicles into the country. So they may not be Chinese brands, but they're certainly Chinese-made vehicles that were coming into the country at that level of 49,000 vehicles before this agreement was signed.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is not happy. He is warning that this deal will lead to a flood, his words, of cheap Chinese EVs. He claims it will threaten Canadian jobs and it will threaten Canada's auto industry. And he claims it will damage relations with the White House. What do you think of what you're hearing?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, at this point, the government of Canada did mention and did say that part of the agreement includes bringing Chinese joint ventures into the country to manufacture here. Whether that means they're going to be manufacturing cars or parts, we don't know, but or even at supplying the supply chain? We don't know, but something's going to come, and they were very specific with the 3-year kind of like deadline. So I'm sure there's stuff going on in the background. And there's definitely capacity to bring Chinese-made vehicles and Chinese-made manufacturers into this country, just in terms of factory capacity.
That was going to be my next question. What opportunities could this present for the auto industry in this country? What are the chances that Chinese companies would want to own or operate production facilities here?
Yeah, I think the first thing you'll see is joint ventures. So there's a Stellantis plant in Brampton, Ontario, which is currently idle, and that was big news going into the latter half of 2025. That allocation that was supposed to go there is not going there. Stellantis already has a joint venture with a Chinese vehicle manufacturer called Leap Motors, and they co-manufacture vehicles both in South America and Europe. So that would be an easy in for a Chinese manufacturer to come to Canada as a joint venture with somebody who's already established here. There's also an idle plant in Ingersoll, Ontario, with GM's Bright Drop, which nobody knows what's going to happen there. But I would not be surprised if we wouldn't see another joint venture open up there, or even a complete plant takeover. It's there, and it's very easy to kind of bring online for sure.
Okay. The Prime Minister last week, in defending this deal, presented it as well as an opportunity for consumers to buy less expensive electric vehicles, which he called vehicles of the future. What do you think about that? Is there good opportunities here for consumers?
Well, I think affordability is what's kind of tanked the EV market overall. I mean, we talk about the incentives and we talk about, infrastructure and all that stuff, but really it's the affordability quotient that's really kind of put a damper on electric vehicle sales. Average electric vehicles is $73,000 to $75,000 now, and the conditions aren't there for mass adoption. So bringing in vehicles that are kind of at that $35,000 mark would certainly spur more interest in the segment and more interest in sales. Should note, though, that some of the established manufacturers like Nissan, Chevrolet with their Bolt, and Kia with their K4 are already coming in to the market with vehicles, electric vehicles that are kind of priced at that $40,000 and sub $40,000 range. So competition is definitely going to heat up. The Chinese automakers may lead the way with the least expensive vehicles, but there'll be other entrants from established manufacturers that will come in that might help with the affordability part of it. I think.
Why are these Chinese vehicles so much cheaper than their Western rivals?
Well, for now, they're being subsidized by the Chinese government. And in a lot of markets, these vehicles are being essentially dumped at below cost to establish market share and take over market share from other manufacturers, and that's part of it. The other part of it too is obviously the cost of labor in China is slightly less than manufacturing in other markets, and the scale is there. I mean, they make millions and millions of vehicles in China, and there's enough industrial capacity in China in the automotive space to basically supply 50% of the world's demand for vehicles. And every year that increases. So, I mean, some estimates show that within the next 5 years, China would be able to basically satisfy all global demand for vehicles based on volume. So, I think people underestimate the industrial capacity in China.
And how would you see a dealer network working? You mentioned joint ventures. Do you think they would be standalone dealerships owned by Chinese companies? And just how would you see that working?
Well, I would think there's already, I know there were already advanced discussions with Chinese automakers before the tariffs hit in 2024 to establish independent dealer networks. So I would think there's an opportunity for independent dealer networks to start sprouting up across the country. And once that genie is out of the bottle, so once we see dealer networks for like the BYDs and the Geelys and the Xiaopings start to set up, it could open the door to non-electric vehicles too, because all of these manufacturers make vehicles that aren't electric. They're hybrids, they're gas vehicles, and they would not be subject to the tariffs either. So once that kind of opens up, we could see electric vehicles from China. We could see gas and hybrid vehicles coming in from China follow suit pretty quickly after a dealership network is set up.
Tim Dimopoulos, thanks for your time again. Great to hear from you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Managing Director, Publisher of Automotive News Canada, Tim Dimopoulos. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
If you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, there is a great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr, and it has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr. And Now You Know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. I noticed that gas prices have been tracking higher over the last couple of weeks or so in our part of the country, not far from the Ottawa area. Ottawa drivers are now paying about $1.30 a liter. And where I am on the Quebec side of the National Capital Region, it's even more than that, because the province of Quebec still has its own provincial carbon tax, which actually could become an election issue this fall. There's a Quebec election this fall, and a lot of Quebecers know that they're paying some of the highest gas prices in the country, and they're not too pleased about it. In the Kitchener area, gas prices have been nudging higher as well, just shy of $1.30, about 128.9. In the Halifax area, gas prices are set across Nova Scotia on a weekly basis. Every Thursday, the regulator sets the gas prices, and there was a jump last week of about 4 or 5 cents a liter, and now the average price across the Halifax region is 132.4. In Calgary, and you'll recall that some gas stations were selling gas for under $1 a liter in kind of a price war. That was just a few weeks ago, but not so now. The average price today, according to 660 News Radio, is $1.26 a liter. And in Vancouver, where gas prices are always the highest in the country, you can have a liter of regular unleaded for the bargain basement price of about $1.54. That's in part because of oil prices. Oil price up about 8% or so far this year, given all the geopolitical events recently, like the news about Venezuela and Iran. They're both members of OPEC, and Iran, like Venezuela, has one of the largest oil reserves in the world. As for oil prices today, up just a nickel on West Texas Intermediate crude futures at 59.39 cents U.S. a barrel. Our Newsday panel is coming up next. This is News Radio. It's time for the Monday Newsday panel with Matthew Dube, Vice President at Proof Strategies, former NDP MP. How are you, Matthew?
Good, thanks, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, great. Good to hear from you. Just trying to keep up with it all, Matthew. Chris Day, Senior Vice President, Burson, Hill, and Knowlton. Welcome back, Chris Day.
Great to be back with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to hear from you. You're the one with the foreign affairs chops, I think, on this panel, Chris. So let's start with you. What is your reaction to Prime Minister Carney's deal with China?
Well, it's a relatively small quota in terms of the number of vehicles, the EVs that we're talking about potentially letting in. And, I think the devil is going to be in those proverbial details with respect to What guardrails will be put on any imports with respect to security? Will any imports come with job and investment commitments? Will there be a price floor for any vehicles imported so they can't sort of flood the market, to use that term? So all of those details are, sort of pending. And I think it will be very interesting to see those get filled in over the next couple of weeks, as well as how the government plans to update its own EV mandate and develop this auto strategy that they've promised as well by mid-February. So all of those details really critically important for the hundreds of thousands of people that work in and around the auto sector. But what was most telling for me was that automakers unions and the Ontario Premier were all caught by surprise with this announcement and united in their opposition. It was also telling that with respect to the state of Canada-China commercial relations, that we had to do this to get access for canola producers and lobster fishermen and other ag folks. So, this tit-for-tat re-engagement is, I think, a commentary on how bad the state of the relationship had gotten for a whole bunch of reasons. And I also think it's very interesting from a 4D chess perspective that the administration in the U.S. and the president and his trade rep were all sort of downplaying the importance of this. I think there's actually that's a sign in terms of art of the deal world that there is that they are taking note of this, and that may actually lead to a invigoration or revitalization of CUSMA talks, or at least Canada-U.S. talks.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's encouraging. What is your reaction to Mr. Carney's deal with China, Matthew?
Well, I'd echo a lot of the same things that Chris said. One thing that stuck out to me was definitely less the Premier of Ontario's criticism of it, and more his surprise. I think the Prime Minister probably could have at least not smoothed it over necessarily. I suspect the Premier would have reacted that way regardless, but at least tried to get out in front of that a little bit. But I think ultimately it's hard to fault the Prime Minister for what he's done here. Obviously, the auto sector is hard hit by the trade tensions with the U.S., so you can appreciate some of the concerns there. But ultimately, getting some pretty big concessions for a number of ag sectors, particularly out west, I think is something that's pretty crucial, especially if you're trying to keep the country united in the face of all the different upheavals that we're facing. I think even from an environment perspective, Mark Carney's been criticized on the climate file, and I think for him, it's certainly not necessarily what a New Democrat would cheer on, if I'm speaking from my perspective. But for him, he seems to really have this sense of a market-driven solution. And so having more affordable EVs while also caveated with enough of a tariff, because the tariffs aren't going to zero, right? I think it's 6% or something like that that's going to remain. So you're still making sure that the Chinese aren't unfairly, dumping cheap vehicles into the market, but also allowing maybe a little more competition, a little more choice for consumers. So if for those who believe in market-driven solutions, that could definitely be a positive on that front. But I think, again, overall, it was a challenging visit to China for the Prime Minister. Expectations were all over the place, but very high regardless of how one felt about it. And so I think he comes out okay. There's no major mistakes. You get some important concessions while also not selling the farm to do so.
Okay. You both mentioned the reaction from Ontario Premier Doug Ford and that he was shocked, and he said he wasn't told about it. Nobody in the industry was told about it. Unifor, similar kind of reaction, but it was reported over the weekend that they informed the White House that this was going to happen. What do you think about that, Matthew? The U.S. knew more than Doug Ford, apparently.
Yeah, and I think that's, I think that's the big mistake that's taken place here. I think overall it was positive, but I think the Prime Minister could have at least let the Premier know. I mean, obviously there was no getting around how the Premier of Ontario would have to react, again, given the duress that the industry is under in Ontario. And the position that he had made clear for weeks, if not months, leading up to this visit, that those tariffs needed to stay. So, Yeah, I think that's a bit of a problem. But on the flip side, I think Doug Ford needs to be careful about the rhetoric he uses. I think playing up this national security angle about cars listening into you, like I heard this morning, I think is a bit overstated and a bit and unhelpful for him, and probably serves Mark Carney well to validate why he didn't speak to the premier in advance. It's a little over the top. I mean, I'm calling you from a phone that was made in China, right? So, I mean, it's how many devices do we have that are connected? I think that's over the top and does a disservice to the premier's overall position.
Well, ni hao to our friends in Beijing, then. What do you think? What do you think about that, though? That the White House seemed to be more in the loop than the Ontario Premier, Chris?
I think this is a very interesting political calculation that the Prime Minister and those around him have made. Given, as Matthew said, there are a lot, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people whose jobs and livelihoods are potentially caught up in what's going on between Canada and the U.S. and the North American auto industry, or I guess the Western world auto industry and the state of it. I find it to be a very, very curious calculation to not do what you can to bring everyone involved in that along with you, including the hundreds of thousands of people in those swing ridings in southwestern Ontario that will be affected most directly by this.
Okay. When we come back, multiple news reports suggest Prime Minister Carney is considering sending a small number of Canadian troops to Greenland to take part in NATO exercises there. Let's talk about that when we return. This is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now you know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
With our Monday Newsday panelists, Chris Day from Burson, Hill and Knowlton, and Matthew Dube from Proof Strategies. Matthew, what do you think of the reporting that Prime Minister Carney is considering sending a small contingent of Canadian troops to Greenland to take part in NATO exercises, just given what Trump has said about his desire to gain control of Greenland?
I think it's the right thing to do, and I think he would be doing more than just considering it. I mean, there's obviously a show of solidarity that's taking place with European leaders, and I think Canada, having, long time been an ally of Europe, but also in the last year wanting to reaffirm our relationship with European countries, I think it's all that much more important. And as a NATO country, and also given our role in the Arctic as well, that's the undertone for Canadians of the undercurrent, of this story for Canadians is that it's hard to imagine that it stops with Greenland. And there's different voices, some fringe, others less so in the MAGA world, if I can call it that have started bringing that piece up, right? That Canada is part of this conversation as well. In fact, I think on Montreal radio last week or the week before, the U.S. ambassador alluded to that himself. So the U.S. ambassador to Canada, that is. So I think the Prime Minister is right to do this. And I think, if you can't say that you support NATO and you want NATO to be strong and these alliances to be strong, if you're not going to participate in the exercise of solidarity that's taking place right now, it's just so beyond the pale. And I think for many of us, as I said to you last week, myself included, who kind of thought, Trump's rhetoric is just overheated. This is just the way he is. He's a bit of a troll. I think we've seen enough now over the last year to know that it's more than that, and it needs to be taken seriously.
Chris Day, what do you think?
A small contingent is all we could muster, to be frank, and I think that's part of the problem that Trump's argument often involves, is that there's an element of truth that NATO countries haven't been doing their weight, or that the U.S. has been sort of overpaying into this alliance. And so the fact that, Trump wants to rebalance that should surprise no one. The fact that his administration published a very, very eye-opening security document about their national security interests being continental, I think is very telling, and we should all be reading that and paying very close attention. But I would also, just to do as the German chancellor tried to do in Davos today in terms of de-escalating some of the tension here. I'd also point out that the U.S. has had an interest in Greenland dating back to 1867 and the presidency of Andrew Johnson, whose Secretary of State actually managed to purchase Alaska from the Russians, and they were looking at purchasing Greenland at that point. They've looked at purchasing Greenland in 1867, 1910, after World War II, and apparently now. And
so, but Trump is saying one way or the other, the easy way or the hard way, things like that, Chris.
For sure. And again, he is an art of the deal guy who will create chaos and try to get the things that he wants to do by any means he can. But I do think that it should be incumbent upon everyone involved here to try and find a way that de-escalates this, but also puts the future of Greenland squarely in the purview of the people of Greenland. They need to decide what they want to do, and just like our Arctic populations need to decide where they see their future, we need to look at how do we invest in our north and our Arctic spaces to ensure that we're using it, not losing it, and investing in things like deep sea ports, investing in things like economic development, investing in things like security, because I don't think any of us should lose sight of the fact that Russia, China, and others are very actively trying to go out into the Arctic and make that use it or lose it case for us.
So the Globe is reporting today that the officials at the Department of National Defense expect a decision from the Prime Minister to be imminent, maybe by the end of the week. Do you think by the end of the week we're going to get word that a small contingent of Canadian troops are going to go to Greenland? Do you think that, Chris?
I think that's a very real possibility.
A very real possibility. And you think that as well, Matthew? You believe that's the case?
Yes, I do. I absolutely.
You think the answer is going to be yes? We're going to, okay.
I think so, yeah.
All right. Where's Pierre Poilievre going to run in the next election? Because it seems that the riding he holds right now will have the former MP run there as the Conservative Party's candidate, Damien Kirk. So what does that mean for Mr. Poilievre? And the federal government's gun buyback program, if we have time, that starts today. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Matthew Dube with us, Vice President, Proof Strategies, former NDP MP. Chris Day, Senior Vice President, Burson, Hill and Knowlton. It's in the news that Damien Kirk will once more be the Conservative Party's candidate in the next federal election in the riding of Battle River Crowfoot. What does that mean for Pierre Poilievre? Where do you think Pierre Poilievre will run in the next election? Chris Day?
Well, I mean, as with every election, there's going to be a process by which, people will decide whether or not they're running again. People will retire. People will choose to do other things. And I think that will inevitably create opportunities for Mr. Poilievre and other folks who aren't yet elected to think of, well, where do I want to run? Where can I make a difference, et cetera? So I don't think it's a surprise that Battle River Crowfoot may again be represented by Mr. Kerr if that's what the voters there choose. But it also shouldn't come as a surprise, I don't think, that Mr. Poilievre would want to potentially seek something that is either closer to an urban area or closer to Ottawa, where it would be easier to get to represent and do constituency duties, but also easier to get back to Ottawa to do Leader of the Opposition duties, and to other cities to do Leader of Party duties. So, those are the three hats that Mr. Poilievre wears as Leader of the Opposition, and anything that representing a riding that will allow him to do each of those three things most effectively is probably what he's looking at, and we'll decide in due course.
Okay. Cheryl Galad's been there a long time. Maybe she should ponder her future. I'll put you down as undetermined, Christe. Undetermined. What do you think, Matthew?
Yeah, I tend to agree. The geography is grueling, and it's hard enough when you're a 2-hour drive from Ottawa to your riding, as I was. I can't even begin to imagine what it's like for some of those folks out west, and I've heard firsthand from many of them. So I think when you're leader, there is some consideration needs to be given to that, especially when you have a young family, as Pierre does. So I totally empathize and respect that. It's not a surprise either. I think no one expected this to be a long-term thing, just to resolve the small issue of having lost his own seat in the last election. But I do think this story more broadly is an example of why, although I don't think the leadership of Pierre Poilievre is threatened during this review, I do think they're looking forward to it being in the rearview mirror. Stories like this, the focus on the leadership review, it takes a lot of energy. He has to give it, a proper go by campaigning, even if it's in a good spot. So I suspect they're looking forward to moving back to Parliament and focusing on the government and playing the role of opposition, and then more broadly looking to the next election. So not a fantastic story, but not the kind of thing that ultimately matters to most voters in the long run.
Okay. Well, we'll have to reserve judgment on our gun buyback program that the Liberals have now launched as of today. But if the past is any indication of the future, that will be an evergreen story, the Liberal gun buyback program. So we can always pick up on that another day. Thank you, though, for today. Great to hear from both of you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Chris Dave, Senior Vice President, Burson, Hill and Knowlton. Matthew Dube, Proof Strategies, former NDP MP from Quebec. Talkback is coming up next, right after the latest breaking news here on News Radio. Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. I have a mixed bag of topics for you today because there's so much happening in the news. We couldn't settle on just one topic. We want to ask you about everything that's going on at 1-833-668-2577. But let's start with Greenland. What do you think is going to happen with Greenland? What do you think is going to happen with Greenland? Once again, Donald Trump is insisting Greenland be part of the United States. He is threatening to impose tariffs on countries that are against his desire to have the United States take control of Greenland. Tariffs that could start at 10% in just a few weeks from now and then go up to 25% by June 1st. He has been saying, and all the people around him have been saying, the United States must control Greenland for national security purposes. And as long as those 8 European countries are opposed to that, they'll have to get used to tariffs. So what do you think is going to happen to Greenland? What would you say? Best guess. Would you say nothing? Nothing is going to happen to Greenland? This is all just talk from Donald Trump. It's bluster. Don't take it seriously. It's nothing to worry about. Would you say the United States is going to buy Greenland? That's the end goal here. Donald Trump's a real estate guy, and he's trying to swing a real estate deal. And in the end, the United States will buy Greenland. Is that what you think is going to happen? Or is the United States going to invade Greenland? Are we all going to wake up one day in the U.S. military under the orders of President Trump will have seized control of Greenland and claim it as part of the United States of America. Could you see that happening? That's one major topic today. What do you think is going to happen to Greenland? Nothing? Nothing? A land acquisition, a real estate deal, or an invasion? 1-833-668-2577. Here's another topic for you, closely related to the first. What do you think of the idea of Prime Minister Carney sending Canadian troops to Greenland? We have to ask you that because, according to multiple news reports, it's something he's thinking about. The Globe and Mail broke that story with the headline, "Canada has plans to send soldiers to Greenland as a show of NATO solidarity with Denmark," officials say. What do you think of that idea? According to the news report from Bob Fife and Steve Chase, a small contingent of Canadian soldiers would go to Greenland and they would take part in military exercises with our NATO allies. A plan has already been drawn up by the Department of National Defense in Ottawa, and that plan is just awaiting a decision from Prime Minister Carney. Military exercises are intended to, quote, signal commitment to Danish and Greenlandic sovereignty, but they could, quote, anger Mr. Trump. The paper says these troops would be in Greenland by the end of the week if the Prime Minister signs off on the plan. What do you think Prime Minister Carney should do? Send Canadian troops to Greenland to show solidarity with Greenland, with Denmark, with our other NATO allies, ex the United States? Or should he decide against doing that because it could result in repercussions from the United States that could include more or higher tariffs from the Trump administration? What's your opinion on that one? Because that's a pretty big story. 1-833-668-2577. Canadian troops in Greenland, yes or no? Canadian troops in Greenland, yes or no? Good idea, bad idea? And meantime, here at home, the Carney government is going ahead with its gun buyback program and seems seriously committed to it. Starting today, Canadian firearms owners can declare their intention to take part in the program and receive compensation for their firearms. It is going to wrap up on March 31st. Firearms who don't declare their intention to participate in the program won't be compensated for their firearms. There is an amnesty period that runs until October 31st of this year. After that, anyone who possesses the some 2,500 makes and models of banned firearms would be considered to be breaking the law. The public safety minister, Gary Anandasangari, said in recent days, the compensation program is voluntary. Compliance with the law is not. He also called these firearms weapons of war that have no place in our communities. In the run-up to today's development, the federal government ran a pilot program on Cape Breton Island that collected 25 firearms from 16 people. Something that was called a success. The Liberals say they hope to collect 136,000 firearms throughout the duration of this program. It will cost many hundreds of millions of dollars to do this. Just the compensation side of the program is about $250 million. And it's a plan with many critics, including provincial governments like Alberta and Saskatchewan, police unions, First Nations, and the Conservative Party of Canada, who all say it's a waste of money that will do very little to crack down on crimes committed with guns in Canada. What do you think? Do you think this is a good move from the government that will make our communities safer? Or is it the wrong approach to gun control and a giant waste of money? 1-833-668-2577. Let's get Talkback started for another week. The future of Greenland. What do you think is going to happen to Greenland? The possibility of Canadian troops in Greenland to show our support. You think that's a good idea? Prime Minister Carney weighing a decision on that. And spending $750 million on a gun buyback program. That starts today. Is that a good way to deal with gun crime in Canada? Have your say on some or all of those issues. 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. It will make your call a priority. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We have a few topics in the mix for you today, all based on the news of the day, the future of Greenland. What do you think is going to happen to Greenland? What do you think is going to happen there? Nothing? Maybe some kind of land deal? The U.S. will buy Greenland, or an invasion? The United States will invade Greenland. What do you think? Reports say Prime Minister Mark Carney is mulling over whether or not to send Canadian troops to Greenland to show our solidarity with the territory and our NATO allies. It would be a small contingent of troops. Should Mark Carney send those troops to Greenland or not? And the federal government's gun buyback program starts today. Could cost in the end as much as $750 million. The government calls these assault-style firearms that have no place in Canadian communities. Critics call it a waste of money, and it will do nothing to prevent gun crime in Canada. Feel free to have your say on that topic as well at 1-833-668-2577. 4 lines available as we start the week on Talkback with Ken in Cochrane. Welcome to Talkback. Ken, you're on the air. Go ahead with your opinion. Let's try Mark in Calgary then. Mark, you're up first this week. Hi there, Mark.
Hello?
Oh, sorry. Mac. Yeah, Mac. Go ahead, Mac. Off to a bit of a rough start here today. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Caller. First time
Appreciate
caller,
that.
long time listener. How you doing, Rob?
Very good, Mac. Thank you. What's your opinion?
So my opinion here is a few things. I think that the Trump administration in the United States there, I think they used their power across the world to try to bully people into giving in and caving in on deals that they find. I mean, I watch the news just like everyone else. They've always had a military presence in Greenland. I read today that they actually diminished their troop size there over the last few years. So I don't think it's a security thing. I think it's more of a, as they say, going after precious minerals and stuff they have in the earth there. And I think that the Americans and Trump in himself tries to use his bullying power and his thing to intimidate people into doing things. I don't think anything will eventually happen there. I think that he's just trying to he did that with the tariffs, I remember, where he would threaten, and then he got his way, and then he took his threats away, and then he brought more back. I think it's just a game with him. As a point to the Canadian troops being there, we're a part of NATO.
Yes.
I do believe that NATO has helped stop the intention of other countries starting wars or trying to take other countries. So they're deterred by NATO. And if it takes Canadian troops on the ground there to help deter the Americans from using the threats against the rest of the world, I think it's a great thing to do.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me pick up on that. Do you think that would be any kind of deterrence at all for the Americans, a small contingent of Canadian troops landing in Greenland? Do you think that would deter the Americans?
I honestly, I don't think it would. You're right, but it might generate talks. It might help to have smarter minds prevail over this situation. I mean, if the Americans are going to attack, they're going to attack. I don't think there's a country in the world that can stop them. NATO, it'll be ugly. I'll tell you that now. It'll be ugly for Canadians. It'll be ugly for the rest of the world if this does come to happen. But again, I just believe that they're just empty threats. I think he's just trying to bully his way through the cafeteria, as they say. Just trying to see what he can get out of this deal. I'll threat. I'll shed threats. I'll put pressure on these people, and then I'll try to compromise with something else. If he was really worried about, if he was honest, I think the world would be more susceptible to go along with him and saying, if he wanted to say, look, at the world, we need precious metals out of the ground there because we need to compete with China and Africa and that part of the world, that part of the hemisphere that's starting to, I think people would say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But for him to go in there and just start threatening people, and I mean, look what's happening in Minnesota. Look what's happening in Minneapolis. It's just horrible, I come from the Middle East, my friend. I've been in Canada for 50 years. I remember when I was in the Middle East, there was a secret police going around Lebanon and Syria and those countries, and they would snatch you off the street. They would want your ID. They would imprison you without anyone knowing where you. It seems the exact same thing that's happening there used to happen in the Middle East, and that's just a downward spiral for the rest of the world, I believe.
All right. Very well said today. Thank you. You've got us off to a good start on Talkback. Hope to hear from many more of you today as we start a new week together, trying to figure out what's going on in the world, dissect some of the current events of the day. 1-833-668-2577 to have your say. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are asking today about the future of Greenland. What do you think is going to happen there? The possibility of Canadian troops in Greenland to show our support. Do you think that's a good idea? The Prime Minister is weighing a decision on that. And spending $750 million on a gun buyback program in this country. The Liberals are starting with that program today. Is that a good way to deal with gun crime in Canada? 1-833-668-2577. All topics in the mix today. Ken in Cochrane up next on Talkback. Hi, Ken. What's your opinion?
Hey, Rob. First of all, I do kind of preface my comments with, again, sound like a broken record. Manifest Destiny, the National Security Strategy just published by the U.S. government, the Monroe Doctrine, and the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. All of these things sound, like conspiracy theory, that kind of stuff, but it's real, and all people have to do is go and look at it. And then you can understand that a lot of what Trump is doing has some historical foundation and is not sort of Looney Tunes, as many people kind of take Trump to be, right? He's smarter than he lets on. At any rate, what I think that you will see Canadian troops in Greenland. I think we kind of have to be there. Because A, we have to show support for our European allies. I think we actually are going to need their support because if Trump, and I think there's a strong possibility that Trump will end up with Greenland somehow. And I say that because he's not one to give up. And so in some way, shape, or form, that's going to happen. And I think that spells a lot of trouble for Canada in that Trump will use that then as a claim to latch onto a lot of Canada's Arctic and say that it doesn't really belong to us. It's part of the Arctic, which is basically up for grabs. And he'll claim that too, or he'll make overtures to claim that too. And I think we're going to need the Europeans to bolster us in the end. I think that we're in for a big problem pretty soon. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. And for a big problem, he says, Johnny in Mount Forest, Ontario. Johnny, thanks for calling. You're on Talkback. Hi, Johnny.
Hi there.
Hi, Johnny.
Thanks for taking my call. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I would agree with your last caller that we are going to probably send troops to Greenland. Really is just kind of like a unified NATO presence I think it's the right thing, even though it's a small contingency. I think everyone is sending a small contingency, but it's more of the statement. As for Greenland itself, I'm a little shocked about how assertive and aggressive Trump has been with his, the Venezuela approach and now the Greenland. I'm hoping that, the midterm elections, that he may lose some power in the Congress and hopefully things start changing and I think that's why he's taking an aggressive approach now that he has the ability with the congressional votes. But I think that hopefully is going to change in midterm. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for being quick. Yeah, the midterms are in November. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback. Share your opinion, please, on the future of Greenland. Canadian troops in Greenland. Gun buyback program is there. That's an interesting topic as well. Want some meat on that bone, too. Because it's so expensive. $750 million. Goodness gracious. Think of all the health care you could get with that. This is News Radio. It's a new week of Talkback, but a familiar topic, the future of Greenland. What do you think is going to happen there? The Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is considering a decision whether or not to send Canadian troops to Greenland in a show of support. What do you think about that? And the Liberals' gun buyback program is starting today. You'll have until March 31st, if you're impacted by it, to declare your intention to participate. Otherwise, you could be in violation of the law after the amnesty period expires at the end of October. 1-833-668-2577. Greg is in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Greg. You're up next on Talkback. Hi there. What's your opinion?
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Something to think about. The Americans have 1,500 active duty soldiers on standby from their 11th Airborne Division based in Alaska. So these are all Arctic trained people. And they say they're going to potentially deploy them in Minneapolis, but they've already got about 3,000 ICE people in Minneapolis. So is it possible that these 1,500 airborne types from Alaska might go to Greenland? So that's one consideration. And the other consideration is they just invited Mr. Putin to sit on the Board of Peace in Gaza. So it seems the relationship between Donnie down south and Putin is still there. So what happens if the U.S. attacks Greenland and Russia attacks Europe at the same time? So Europe will be divided between two fronts. Anyway, just a thought. And who knows what's going to happen.
Okay. What do you think about the idea of Canadian troops being in Greenland?
Well, we have to support NATO, in my opinion. And you just got to stand up for the good people and
have to do it.
Good values.
Have to do it. Okay. Thank you for your call. A decision imminent, according to the reports, and they could be there by the end of the week if that's the decision that Prime Minister Carney makes. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. To Nathan in Calgary today. Hi, Nathan.
Hi there. So,
Hi.
I pretty much agree with what Max said about the Trump and Greenland situation. So I'm just going to jump onto the gun issue. I own guns. I hunt. I have rifles. And, the system that they have in place may not be ideal, but I also do believe you have to have some kind of a control in place. And getting assault rifles off the streets of our communities, I don't think is a bad thing. Again, is it the way that they're going about it, the money that they're spending seems a little extreme for sure. But I feel like in order to have a safe culture, taking guns off the streets is not necessarily a bad thing. If you look at what's happened in the States and just giving everybody guns whenever they want, I don't really think that's working out for them very well. And the culture down there, as it relates to gun control, would actually scare me to live in the States because of the culture down there. So I think we need to have some kind of controls in place and some kind of a gun program. Is it the best program? Is it ideal? Okay. Probably not, but got to have something. That's
what do you think about the criticisms here that legal, law-abiding gun owners who have been licensed, subjected to background checks, they're not the problem. The problem is illegal weapons being imported into the country, soft on crime policies from the Liberal government, so-called revolving door policies or catch and release policies. They're the real problem when it comes to gun crime.
I think a little from column A, a little from column B. You got to have a balance. Yeah, no, is the hunters and the guys that have guns, claiming they need it for protection, the problem in most cases? Probably not. But really, like Jim Jeffries said, what's the real reason people want guns? Screw off. I like guns. This whole argument for I need it for protection. Like, how many enemies do you have? Like, and if it's safely stored, it's no protection. So that argument I think is ridiculous. You like guns, you want to have guns, that's fine, I get it. But just to have but you need to take them off the criminals as well. But having all these people with all these assault rifles, like I don't get that argument. So I mean, if you want to go hunting, whatever, that's fine.
Well, again, the government's language is assault style firearms. Yeah. And what I have heard from people who know a lot more about firearms than I do, what they have said is that a lot of the firearms that are on this list, it's some 2,500 now on the list. A lot of them may look kind of scary, but they operate the same way as traditional rifles do.
Yeah, and I think, talking to some of my, friends, that fellow hunters or whatever, the list, again, I don't think it's perfect by any means. This whole program seems a little flawed. But I guess, again, you got to have some kind of a program. I just don't think just allowing everybody to have any gun they want is the answer either.
Okay, again, that's not what we do in Canada. Of course, you have to be licensed and pass a very thorough background check, as a matter of fact. But you think it's a worthwhile endeavor. Fair enough. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. And have your say on that or the Greenland-related issues that are in the mix today. Love to hear from you on that. I would remind you just on the gun buyback program that the Minister of Public Safety was caught on a secret recording with an acquaintance of his, someone renting an apartment from him, who admitted that legal law-abiding gun owners are not the problem, and one of the only reasons that they're going ahead with this is because they made a political commitment to the people of Quebec to do it. It's about votes in Quebec. Quote, "Don't ask me to explain the logic of it," end quote, said Gary Anand Sangari on tape. But he didn't know he was being recorded. But have your say. 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Monday, mixed bag of topics for you. The future of Greenland. What do you think is going to happen there? Nothing. Land deal. The U.S. will buy Greenland. Or an invasion. The U.S. will invade Greenland. Just listen to what Mr. Trump has been saying. Mark Carney, meantime, mulling over whether or not to send Canadian troops to Greenland to show our solidarity with the territory, with Denmark, our other 8 NATO allies. What do you think of that decision? What should he do? And the federal government's gun buyback program starts today with a price tag that could reach $750 million. What What do you think about that? 1-833-668-2577 and have your say. Ian is in Cape Breton. Hi, Ian. Thanks for calling. What's your opinion?
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
In my opinion, I think the Greenland situation should be up to the Greenland people, not Denmark. They brought them in, formally colonized in 1953, not doing much different to what's being done now. So, although there was no aggression. So I think it should be purely Greenland that makes this decision, and they're more than capable of making their own decision. The gun buyback program, I think we're stuck in a place where the Liberal government doesn't want to back down on a commitment and is going to follow this through until they're either not in power or, people just don't give back their guns. That's pretty much my opinion of it.
So, well, they had the pilot program was on Cape Breton Island. They collected 25 firearms from 16 people. That's not many firearms. As someone who grew up there, I can tell you that's not many firearms. You could go down any street in Glace Bay and you would find probably 25 guns in at least one house.
But it's also big hunting country. I own guns. I hunt. I go to a range for target practice. Just a hobby. I mean, my guns are locked up in a safe. As they are, I don't own any guns that are on the list, but I'm just a target shooter. But I've got friends around here that, they're out every opportunity hunting. And I know when they say assault-style rifles, there's a lot more hunting rifles, a lot more powerful than those AR-15s and stuff. And I see a lot of them on the ranges, and they're just target shooters.
Right. But you're of the opinion that they have spent so much political capital on this, they've kind of painted themselves into a corner now that the Liberals have no choice but to press ahead with it.
Yeah, and I mean, as you stated with that Gary Andersandri going on that secret tape and where his good friend taped him, which is another matter. But,
right.
When you know the people running it don't have faith in it, and that purely spoke up that he has no faith in it. It's a FUBAR. If they back tape now, they're going to lose a lot of face over the money already spent, because that is a phenomenal amount of money.
Yeah, even that's tens of millions of dollars already, the money that's been spent already on it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I got you, Ian. Yeah, they're trying to save face on it. Good call. Linda in Southern Alberta today. Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Hi, Linda. Yeah, what's your opinion here?
Well, on Greenland, I look at it as it's a UN exercise, right?
No.
And to me, that I'm looking at it as UN exercise. It gives them experience on working in and defending the North. I would like to see them come across to the Arctic and do some training here.
Okay, yeah, it would be if Canadian troops go to Greenland, it would be part of NATO exercises. NATO.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, NATO. Well, yeah, but it's right. Training. To me, it would be like a training exercise anyway. Defending the North sort of thing, and using it for defense of Greenland. Well, that's just a possibility, right? If this would happen, this is how we could deal with it. And as far as gun back thing, well, like you said, it's a Quebec thing, totally. And I think the gun back program should have been a provincial thing. You do it provincially, and then you get reimbursed from the federal government. You run it yourself, you get reimbursed. This other one, it's just somebody's making a lot of money, and somebody's just maintaining votes. That's my view on it.
Okay. Just on to circle back to Canadian troops in Greenland, should we not consider potential blowback for a decision like that from the United States? Or does that matter at all?
I don't think so. I think it's a stand, right? You've got to show this is what we're doing. We had Chinese troops, I believe, in the Arctic doing training once.
We did.
My understanding. Yes. Okay,
yes.
So was there any blowback on that?
No.
I think, and like you were saying before, U.S. has been trying to buy Greenland for X amount of times, right? And they never did. So obviously they thought it wasn't a good idea. So Trump is just, maybe he wants to put another Trump Tower there. Who knows?
Okay. But you seem to be of the opinion that we have to show solidarity. It might be a good learning opportunity for these troops.
Yeah, I think
to
all
cooperate
of that, right?
with our NATO allies in an Arctic setting. Okay, thank you. Linda, yep. Lots of lines available there, folks, to have your say. 1-833-668-2577. It's a complicated start to the week. We're trying to make sense of it with your help. So please contribute to Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Chris is in Calgary. He's up next on Talkback. Thanks for calling, Chris. What's your opinion?
Yeah. Hey, Rob. How are you today?
Very good, Chris. Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, short and sweet of it, I think the Greenland deal should absolutely be up to the people of Greenland. But, not allowing Russia or to China. I do agree with Trump a little bit on that side of it. My main point, though, is this gun buyback ban is insane.
Okay. Okay.
For the I am in possession of one rifle, and the amount that I'm getting back is $198 on a rifle that I paid $1,400 for. I don't see, if you want to start by getting some back, why not offer people what retail value is? Maybe that'd be a little bit more incentivizing, because you're telling me that they need $500 million to confiscate guns. I can tell you the mass majority, this should be a provincial issue. If Quebec has an issue, it shouldn't be punished for all. It should just be within Quebec or provinces that, are going to legislate and be able to deal with it on their own. I don't think coming after legal gun owners is the issue. And a lot of these assault-style rifles are, we're limited here to having 10 rounds. And why not use that money and take actual criminals or stop, all the illegal guns coming across the border, or, invest in thesis going after people that bring them in illegally. There's so many other ways around this, but you mean to tell me that Gary doesn't even have an R-PAL or a PAL, doesn't even know what they stood for, probably to this day still doesn't really understand it. And, I think it's just the bureaucracy of it is absolutely out to lunch, man. And I don't agree with any part of this gun bust.
Well, on that, if you want to revisit it, the secret tape that was released about 3 months ago, where he's talking with one of his tenants who owns weapons and isn't happy about this. I mean, he actually says, Gary Anandasangri, who's the public safety minister in charge of this, says, don't ask me to explain the logic of it to you. You're in charge of the program. Don't ask me to explain the logic of it to you. And then he later says, look, Quebec is just a different place, and we made a commitment to do this to people in Quebec, and they voted for us. So we have to do it.
Just because one province votes for you, it's still, at that point it becomes a silent majority, unfortunately. But again, to punish us all is out to lunch. And you're killing industry at a time when we're already not doing really well. And if you want to, kind of dive deeper into it, such as the China deal, that's kind of a bunch of bullshit. Sorry, I apologize.
All right.
Carney caused the main issue with the canola, and to come back and say we got a deal with China, well, really you're getting the same deal back that you initially caused. We're not really any further ahead. But yeah, the gun buyback thing is
lunacy. Okay, lunacy. Yeah, thank you, Chris. Flurry of callers there at the end of the hour. If you're on the line, please hang on. We have a full hour ahead of Talkback. And we can revisit all of these topics, the future of Greenland, Canadian troops in Greenland, the gun buyback program. That starts today. $750 million budget for that. The latest breaking news next on News Radio. Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback as we start a new week together. Kind of a Monday mixed bag of topics. The future of Greenland, what do you think is going to happen there? Nothing. Maybe some kind of land deal. An all-out invasion by the United States. Some people are predicting that. Meantime, reports say Prime Minister Mark Carney's mulling over whether or not to send Canadian troops to Greenland. Should he? In a show of solidarity, should he? And the federal government's gun buyback program starts today that could cost as much as $750 million. The Liberals say these are assault-style firearms. They have no place in our communities. Critics say it's a waste of money that will do nothing to prevent gun crime in Canada. What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. Right back to the phone lines today. Alex up next. Hi, Alex. You're on Talkback.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am calling because I am very concerned about Trump. I think everybody is. But if you look at his history, when he went into Venezuela and people for narcotics, supposedly, and he started shooting at ships and the international community didn't react, basically. So then he went in and took out President Maduro. And again, you know, it's a small country, but, you know, and nobody's aligned with it. So he was able to do it. And I think that this was his testing ground. And I think he's going to go into Greenland and see how people react. And if NATO doesn't show a force, then he will keep going to Canada. Because if Greenland is a security issue, then Canada, which is directly north of the U.S., is a greater security risk. I mean, he's talked about pulling out of NORAD. And so if he does that, you know, Canada, Mark Carney, has said that we will have to develop our own defense system. So he has all kinds of justification to go after Canada. And so if we don't support Greenland at this point, why would NORAD come to our rescue if Greenland is overtaken?
Right.
So,
NATO. Yeah, NATO. But you think, so you would be inclined then, I gather, to support Mark Carney if he makes the decision to send troops there?
I think he absolutely has to. I don't think he has a choice. And I hope he recognizes that, because this is just a testing ground. I mean, it's not important in the overall security of the world. You know, so he can do this. He's making tiny little steps and just continuing his U.S. expansion.
Okay.
And he's not going after security. He's going after minerals or oil or whatever it is. I mean, Venezuela obviously has oil. Canada has oil. We have, you know, precious minerals and whatnot. So, you know, he just wants to annex everyone.
Right. So you see a lot of similarities between Greenland and Canada. And if he tries to take Greenland, then we should be worried as well. Okay. Thank you very much, Alex. You've got us off to a good start there. And she thinks the Prime Minister should send troops there. Robert in Cambridge is up next, in Cambridge, Ontario. Hi, Robert.
Oh, hey. How's it going?
Very good, Robert. Thank you. What's your opinion?
Yeah. I just wanted to comment on the gun buyback kind of fiasco. It really kind of boils my blood when I hear it talked about it. It's just such a waste. And I understand they're doing it to get political votes, and it's not really for safety. So they're like, people will be happy if they just are seen to be doing something. But it can't actually, like that big list of all the newly banned guns, it can't actually get those. There's no way to do it. Those are non-restricted firearms, so they aren't registered. So the government does not know who has those and in what quantity. It's different than the AR-15s. Those are registered firearms, so they knew exactly who had those. But the other ones are non-restricted, so those aren't registered. And I heard when they started buying back the few, like the big 25 or whatever it was, they are giving people much, like lowballing them based on what they're getting for codes. Like the guy I heard was saying he was supposed to get 2,000, he got 500. So now hearing about how poorly that initial thing went, when they're doing this amnesty period, and please declare that what you have, that we have no way of knowing if you have it, no one's going to say anything, because why would they? They're not going to be given fair compensation. And I mean, it's ridiculous.
Okay. Again, Gary Anandasangri has said taking part in the gun buyback program is voluntary, but complying with the law is not voluntary. What do you think of that?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, then you have to wait it out. So if you're one of the normal people that I know that have guns that need them, we don't go out target shooting. Like, I live half my time in the city and half in the country. In the country, there's actual threats there that you need to be prepared for. My neighbor had their dog killed by a bear. There's a bad bear on our property now, so I got to carry a gun around in case it wants to eat me. It tries to break into our house and our sheds and eats things all the time. And so I need something, right? Now, what I have currently is going to be fine. But say we had what they have out west with the feral hogs. If they, say, moved into Ontario and there was like just everywhere, the only way to exterminate those is a lot of firepower. So you would actually need the kind of guns they're trying to ban now. So anyways.
Waste of money, in your opinion.
Yeah.
Waste of time and money.
Well,
Waste of time and money.
So, yeah.
And they can't succeed. Okay.
No, it's not
Other than that, it's a bang-up program. Very good. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. Hour number 2 of Talkback is underway. Love to hear from you today. Lots of time to fit you in and let you have your say on any of our topics today. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, it's our Monday Talkback, kind of a mixed bag today, talking about the future of Greenland, what you think is going to happen there. Canadian troops going to Greenland, maybe by the end of the week. What do you think about that? And the gun buyback program launched today. It could end up costing Canadians $750 million. The Liberals are seriously committed to it, however. To Kevin up next. First-time caller. Thanks for calling, Kevin.
How you doing today?
Yeah, very good, Kevin. How are you?
Great, thanks.
That's good.
The buyback thing. I've got
Yes.
quite a few firearms, a lot of handguns and stuff. I collect them, and me and the son-in-law and the boys will go out to a gun range and shoot targets, and it's relaxing, it's fun, which might seem strange to people, but it is. I've also got a couple rifles. I've got a couple 22s that look like an AR, but it's a 22 caliber. I mean, you could possibly do some damage with a 22, but it's not, and it's on this restricted buyback, form. It's a 22. It's not like they're going to be able to take these guns and do anything with it. It's spend the money and catch the people that are doing wrong, put them in jail, hire more police officers or sheriffs or whatever to keep the rapists and the guys that do bad and smuggle stuff across the border and do all this. Use that money towards that. Why hit the hunters and the farmers that are protecting their livestock and people that just like to go out and target shoot? Like, it blows my mind. I get pulled over for a speeding ticket and they say, "Oh, you have a restricted. Do you have any weapons?" No, I don't. Can we look? Yeah, go ahead. Like, there's some people it's not by the book. I'm by the book, and I respect them asking me that question. It's their safety. But spend
Sure
the
enough.
money on proper things that need to be dealt with. Get more prosecutors to keep people in jail that need to be in jail, not go out and do a third, fourth, fifth offense. Yeah, it just blows my mind. Totally blows my mind.
Blows your mind. Okay. So this program is open now. Are you impacted by it?
Not yet. I've
You're
got
impacted by it.
safe.
Yes.
I would be.
But
Right?
you
I got a gun
own
safe.
firearms that are on the list? Do you own firearms that
Yeah.
are on this list? Are you going to
Yeah,
turn it
they're in
in
my-
for destruction and compensation? You're not?
No, they're in my They're in my gun safe, and they got trigger locks in my gun safe, and my gun safe is locked behind a hidden door. So cops can come to my house, which I signed a piece of paper when I got my restricted saying, you're more than welcome, basically, to come in my house at any time. But they're not going to find my stuff. So I'm not handing stuff in for when I paid, like the other gentleman, $2,000 for a gun, and they're going to give me, $20 for it. No, not happening. I'll keep that thing locked up forever.
The public safety minister said that if you're, first of all, if you don't comply by March 31st, you don't declare your intention, you wouldn't be eligible for compensation. And there's this amnesty by October 31st. And once that passes, you would be breaking the law. You're okay with that?
Yep, because so are they. Like the one gentleman said he doesn't feel safe in the States. There's a lot of gun violence in the States, but also there's a lot of people that don't break into your house and do other things in the States because you're scared that that person driving beside you might have a gun. If that makes sense.
Fair enough, sir. Okay, so you're not going to comply with it. Even though it started today, you have no intention of complying with it. Okay, that's interesting. I'm glad we could get you on, Kevin, and get your experience. Jan in Calgary. Is it Jan?
Hello, Rob.
Jan? Yeah, hi there. Hi. Yeah, thanks for calling. Hear you just fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, first-time caller. I just want to comment about the Greenland crisis. To really fight the bullies, to stop the bully from bullying is to really fight him back, right? So, at what point will Trump stop? There's no any difference between the U.S. now and Russia. Russia invaded Georgia, invaded Crimea out of, again, quote-unquote, national security, right? They don't want anybody close to their borders, right? And now he's doing the same thing in Greenland. And let's face it, U.S. is the most powerful militarily country in the world. If they want to take it, they can take it. Even NATO won't be able to stop it, sorry to say. But this is still a democratic country, right? Where is the Congress approval for this? Right, that's my question. And then even if they do say Congress, we should do it, but again, when does this stop? Canada, like Alex mentioned earlier, Greenland is right beside us, and Trump decides okay, we want Canada as a 51st state, then there we go, right? There's no difference again with Russia and Georgia, and Georgia side and Crimea. In terms of Carney sending out our troops, I totally support that one. We should, we're NATO, right? We should keep our word, support the alliance, and send our soldiers there, right? And again, Trump may be just bluffing. He's the type of person, negotiator. He negotiates on the upper hand all the time, right? So that he can get whatever the real target could be, a bigger portion of a U.S. base in Greenland. However the case, I don't think it's right. And
you don't think it's right? Okay, but you do support Canadian troops going there because they might be there by the end of the week.
Absolutely.
More boots on the ground. Okay, thank you. I'm glad we could take your call today, Jan. Thanks for calling. Pair of first-time callers there, Kevin and Jan. Love to hear from first-time callers. Maybe you could be one. 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We have been discussing today, with your help, the future of Greenland, what you think is going to happen there, the possibility of Canadian troops in Greenland, showing our support and solidarity with people in Greenland and in Denmark and with our NATO allies. Prime Minister Carney, according to reports, been presented with a plan. He'll make a decision sometime soon, and the troops could be there by the end of the week in Greenland. And the gun buyback program that started today, federal gun buyback program, Price tag $750 million. Ivar up next. Ivar, thanks for calling.
Hey, Rob, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you for calling. What's your opinion today?
Hope you can hear me okay. I'm just driving. My opinion
hear you
is
just fine.
that a lot of people have TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. And the problem is people forget easily what past presidents used to do, which is exactly what Trump is doing, with ICE going into other countries and without congressional approval. They all did it. And as soon as he does the same thing, they all pounce on him. So I don't agree we should be going into Greenland. I think Trump knows what he's doing. Let him do what he wants. None of our business. If they want to send troops in there, they should line up, the politicians should line up with their own sons first before they send anybody else in.
Okay. So on the possibility, just so I'm clear, the possibility of Canadian troops going to Greenland, we have some there now. They're actually working with the Americans, but this would be more of a kind of a show of strength and solidarity with our other NATO allies in light of what Mr. Trump has said here. Do you think that's a good idea to send more Canadian troops to Greenland?
Definitely not.
No?
Definitely not.
Not. Okay, you're the first to say that today, so I'd like to know a little bit more about your rationale there.
Well, our biggest ally is obviously the States. So even though a lot of people don't believe that Trump is doing the right thing, they don't know exactly what he's doing. So people don't really know a lot about politics, including myself. But I truly think that he is negotiating for his own country, doing whatever he can for his own country, but we should not be in there. We should not be spending money putting our relationship at risk with the U.S. I personally don't believe NATO does a very good job, but one of the reasons why Russia is in Ukraine is because NATO's fault. After Gorbachev left, NATO wasn't supposed to move an inch closer to Russia, but they've taken over so many other countries that, he finally went in and said that's enough.
Well, other countries wanted to be part of the NATO alliance because they didn't want to face Russian aggression. They'd rather be European, not Russian, after their independence from the former Soviet Union. What I want to get at, we're kind of game planning, various scenarios here. What do you think is going to happen? Nothing. Maybe nothing happens. Or maybe the U.S. buys Greenland. They've tried to do that before. Or there could be an invasion. What do you think? What's the most likely outcome here? Nothing? A land deal? An invasion? What do you think?
I think a land deal is probably the best outcome. An invasion?
Some kind of land deal. So. Okay. But you don't think an invasion. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your call. All of our phone lines free right now. 1-833-668-2577 to have your say on Talkback on News Radio. Yeah, it sure is. We've been talking about any number of things today. 3 topics, really. The first 2 having to do with Greenland. What do you think is going to happen there? That's our main question. Nothing. Some kind of land deal, maybe an invasion. The possibility of Canadian troops in Greenland, the Prime Minister weighing a decision on that to show our support. Is that a good idea? And the federal government's long-awaited gun buyback program officially opens nationwide today. Is that a good way to deal with gun crime in Canada? Is our main question on that topic. 1-833-668-2577 to Kitchener today. Justin is there. Hi, Justin in Kitchener.
Hey, Rob, how are you? Thanks for taking my call.
Very good. You're welcome.
Listen all the time. First time call. I wanted to respond to that gentleman that just called in there. That phrase TDS is thrown around a lot by people these days, and I think we need to rephrase it just into Trudeau derangement syndrome, because anybody that sees a president go after another country just because he wants a medal and they support that, has something very, very wrong with them. I'm sorry. I can't believe that somebody actually would agree with this guy on this whole Greenland thing. It's crazy.
Okay. What do you think is going to happen there?
You know, we can only hope that he is bluffing and somebody's going to talk him down from it. But I think we'd be pretty crazy not to at least take him at his word. And I'm not the type of person that would support it. It just would be gung-ho for our troops being put in danger. But I will say, if they get sent to Greenland, 90% of us here will be very proud of them, because that's something that we've always stuck up for, which is our NATO allies. And if Donald Trump wants to throw all that away because he's jealous of Obama winning a medal that he didn't get, I mean, you know, what else can we do in a situation like this? We've never faced it before.
Okay. Thank you for your call, Justin, and sharing your opinion today. Good to hear from you. To Halifax. Doug is in Halifax. Thanks for calling, Doug. What's your opinion, Doug?
Rob.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
good to hear from you.
Justin said it pretty damn good. Myself personally, first I got to say I saw something on the BBC, on the BBC News, and one of the reporters asked a woman of all people about what the situation was, and she is actually thinking about going out and buying a gun. I don't know if you saw that or not, but anyway, that's what she had said. I think, yeah, we should put our boots on the ground. I think NATO should stick together and force his hand. Call his bluff. Say, no, we're not going to allow you to do this, and see what he does. I think his own government, his own parties will turn on him. There's no way he can face the American people and say, I'm going to go after Europe and I'm going after Canada. Because I want Greenland. I can't see that happening.
You don't think it's going to happen? Now, as I mentioned, Mark Carney is mulling this decision to send. It's described in the news reports as a small contingent of Canadian troops to Greenland as kind of a show of solidarity. You support that?
100%. Yes, for sure.
100%?
Yeah. This guy's nothing but a bully, man. You got to call his bluff and force his hand. I don't think he got the nerve to even think about. He convinced Europe and Canada to beef up our security, our spending on NATO, on our military,
on NATO,
and
yeah,
and they've all agreed to do that, and they're all ponying up for all this money to protect the Arctic and each other as a group. No, I think he's out in left field on this one myself, but that's my own opinion. As far as the gun law goes,
thank you.
Just what a waste of money. You know? Just a waste of money.
Just a waste of money. Okay. Thank you, Doug. Thank you for calling today. Good to hear from you in Halifax. Let's play some newer clips of what not just Donald Trump has said about Greenland, but what people around him have said. Stephen Miller is one of the great MAGA hawks. He is one of the architects of MAGA. And he is the person who was speaking very forcefully. You'll remember a few weeks ago in an interview with Jake Tapper on CNN, suggesting nobody's going to fight the United States over Greenland. Well, he was with Sean Hannity on Fox News just a few days ago, and very provocative, again, with Sean Hannity on Fox News, and suggested that if Denmark can't defend Greenland, then Denmark shouldn't have control of Greenland. Let's play that tape.
With respect to Denmark, Denmark is a tiny country with a tiny economy and a tiny military. They cannot defend Greenland. They cannot control the territory of Greenland. Under every understanding of law that has existed about territorial control for 500 years, to control a territory, you have to be able to defend a territory, improve a territory, inhabit a territory. Denmark has failed on every single one of these tests. So they want us to spend hundreds of billions of dollars defending a territory for them that is 25% bigger than Alaska at 100% American expense. But they say, while we do this, it belongs 100% to Denmark. It's a raw deal. It's an unfair deal. And most importantly, it's unfair to the American taxpayer, who have subsidized all of Europe's defense for generations now. American dollars, American treasure, American blood, American ingenuity is what keeps Europe safe and the free world safe. And Donald Trump's insisting that we be respected, Sean.
Then as well, you have other Trump advisors, economic advisors. In fact, like Scott Bessent. He's the Treasury Secretary of the United States. He was on Meet the Press on NBC this weekend. And he basically said the United States is strong, Europe is weak, and that's why the United States should have Greenland. Let's play that.
President Trump strongly believes that we cannot outsource our security because, Kristen, let me tell you what will happen, and it might not be next year, might not be in 5 years, but down the road, this fight for the Arctic is real. We would keep our NATO our NATO guarantees, and if there were an attack on Greenland from Russia, from some other area, we would get dragged in. So better now, peace through strength, make it part of the United States, and there will not be a conflict because the United States right now, we are the hottest country in the world, we are the strongest country in the world. The Europeans project weakness, the U.S. projects strength.
Two very close advisors to President Trump, explaining the president's thinking on Greenland. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The future of Greenland, Canadian troops in Greenland, the gun buyback program, all up for discussion today here on Talkback. Derek is up next. Hi, Derek. Thanks for calling, Derek.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah, good to hear from you. What's your opinion?
Well, I think Greenland should stay for Greenlanders, not for anybody, especially they are a NATO country under Denmark. And I think that is it, nothing else. Nobody should say, I'm going to buy it or I want it to take it by force. Related topic. Now, when we create confusion in countries to get rid of their leaders because they have something we want and they won't give it up, is that justifiable? When we look at the latest one, Venezuela that used to give money to its people, right? Because they are so-called not democratic, they got squeezed. The same thing happened in most African countries, the leaders. And then we call them people who are not good for their own people, which is not true. What's the source of the problem? Africa right now, as I see it, is the Garden of Eden. Got everything. Why should people be poor over there? And why should politicians be putting money that belongs to the country in their pockets? Because of conditions that have been laid down. Anyway, that's all I got to say, and I'll put the phone down, and you guys can...
Well, I'm curious, just before you do that, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, that's the question. What do you think is going to happen?
In Greenland or...
Yeah, in Greenland. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that, right, the United States should go in there. I'm sorry to say Donald Trump is a bully. He wants everything for himself. Look at the people he has surrounded himself with. So what may happen is that they will try. But now his own Republicans are pushing back. Look at the insult that he put on, is it Susan Collins? Because she's, adding to the people who wants to get rid of him. So I hope that it doesn't happen. But I don't trust the guy.
You don't trust him. Okay. Thank you for your call. Derek, Allen in Lethbridge today. Hi, Allen. You're up next on Talkback. What's your opinion, Allen? Hi.
Hi. Yes. As far as Greenland's concerned, I was watching the news on when Mo and Carney were delivering in China, and Carney spoke about the new world order. He used that term that kind of even Mo had to look over and kind of wonder what's going on. But with the new alliances that are being made, we've had China as being an adversary for quite a while, and now Trump has become our adversary in so many ways, interfering with our own elections and things like that. But what we're doing is in Greenland, as far as that's concerned, is the New World Order is here. Carney has been part of the European Union talks for since the beginning of his term, and now he's made alliances with China. I mean, as far as economics concerned, that's one thing, but also I bet you the military side of it is also a part of it. What's going on? We now have used Starlink, for example, is now out of our use. It's now Eurolink. Is that what it's called? Hello?
I'm not sure what you're talking about there. I mean, there's a Canadian version of Starlink that's trying to get off the ground, and the Canadian government's poured lots and lots of money into it, called Telesat, which has a similar vision with low Earth orbit satellites and internet by satellite.
Well, exactly. I believe it's called Eurolink. It's France and Germany. France and England have talks with Canada and by dropping Starlink, because obviously the surveillance from the United States is important, and you know how they refuse to help out Ukraine with their Starlink system. I think now that Europe and Canada are now this new world order that I believe very much in. I think they're now that they're having talks with China. I think China is now an ally. Basically,
oh, really? I'm not sure I would go that far.
Well,
okay. I think relations are defrosting. I don't know if we're to that point already, but thank you. Interesting angle to explore with you. We'll be right back with more of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Greenland, lots of talk about Greenland today, and kind of a minor topic, although it comes with a big price tag, is the gun buyback program. $750 million officially launched today. Chris is in Kitchener. Hi, Chris.
How are you doing, Rob?
Yeah, very good, Chris. Good to hear from you today. What's your opinion?
Okay, well, the first thing with Greenland, you know what? I believe Donald, I kind of admire him, but I think he's just testing the waters. We've seen him back down from decisions in the last year and a half of his mandate. I think he has awakened the rest of us to the issues that are going on. But there's no way. NATO is based on democratic countries. So I don't believe that the rest of the world in NATO are going to stand up, or are going to stand up, to him with that respect.
Okay, so I've heard this term before, and some people are bringing it up again, that this is going to be a big taco. Trump always chickens out. Trump always chickens out. Taco.
It's not.
You think this is another taco? A Trump taco?
Yeah, I've heard all that. It's not a question of getting out of it.
Chickening out.
It's about showing the rest of us, hey, listen, you guys pick it up, or else, like I can potentially do it. Other than that, I don't think he's going to do what he's going to do. I'm president, and you're not. I remember that when the first speech, when he was.
All right.
First.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. He's trying to shake things up, trying to wake people up to some of the issues. Okay, to Red Deer. Tyler is in Red Deer. Thanks for calling, Tyler. Looks like you'll get the last word today. Go ahead.
Hey, cool. Hey, I just wanted to approach Greenland from a 100-foot view, a 1,000-foot view, and a 10,000-foot view. So the 100-foot view is your city. It's person to person. You know, is that Trump guy? I mean, is he a jerk? Yeah, maybe he is. And then someone else says, well, you have TDS. That's your 100-foot view. You can argue this at that level if you want, but it's kind of low down. The 1,000-foot view is the national view. And, you know, as Canadian, it's like, well, those poor Greenlanders, we maybe will kind of relate to them, you know, like, you know, wanting their sovereignty. You know, that's a neighborly thing to do.
Sure.
But the 10,000-foot view is the global view. And that view is, I mean, Trump's building something called Fortress America, or other names. There's other names for it. But he's trying to make the Western Hemisphere a power center. And now, if I'm arguing at this level, and I'm looking at this as a Canadian, and I'm looking at the Europeans, the Chinese, I'm looking at the power centers of the world. A, who do I want in control? Is it going to be the USA, Russia, or China? Well, the USA. B, who's my neighbor? Well, the Americans. C, who's my biggest trading partner? The Americans. The thing is that we can't do this finger wagging at Donald Trump's ideas. When it comes down to it, Rob, we're probably going to benefit from them. And that's the angle I think that, you know, Trump's coming from. Not to say I agree with it 100%. But I would encourage people to argue at the 10,000-foot view.
Interesting. Thank you. I really like the way you formulated your analysis there. And I hope you'll call back sometime. I hope all of you call back. Maybe as soon as tomorrow when we have a brand new topic and more of your calls. And until then, always the latest breaking news coming up next on News Radio.